Guess we're doing the Northern Boards podcast today.
Welcome, Ratman Dale. What's going on?
Doing good, Danny?
You are the Skaven man.
Yes, I am, Kang.
So how many points of Skaven have you painted so far? How many points have you reckoned?
What, fully? Like varnished even?
Or just say like you're happy to have it painted and ready on the table.
Oh, about 3,200?
Damn, that's a lot of Skaven. That's a lot of Ratman.
I've got like 6,000.
I think Danny might be right. We might have to call you Ratman Dale.
When you're varnishing the Skaven, you call it varminishing.
No.
Negative
No.
Come on, man. That was close. What's happening? So it was the rats. The rats, the very first Warhammer Fantasy. Is that the one that drew you in?
Skaven drew me into Warhammer at all.
Beautiful.
I had
Very
all
good.
my friends and they're like, I like this thing called 40k. And I'd seen like the first Space Marine game around
Yeah.
their places and Dawn of War. And I'm just like, I don't get it. And then at some point I saw Skaven on the shelf at like the old Perth Underground store.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're my guys.
Yeah.
Do you think it's crazy because you think 40k of all the creatures that would survive into like the 40,000 outside of like a cockroach race, rat race, would you feel like that should have made it to 40k somehow? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You know, you get like demons that cross over from like fantasy to 40k. I feel like the rats, you know, they talk about the underhives and all these like these massive like Forge World built like planets. I feel like rats should be in there somewhere. Where's the chaos rats?
For me, it's like Skaven are the epitome of no matter what, they always come back. No matter what you think you get rid of the Skaven, they somehow return.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if in 40k at some point we have Ratman appear out of nowhere. And guess what? I think 40k players would celebrate that.
Very similar to
I think it's a Necromunda thing, honestly. I think they've got
Very
that
much a
vibe down
hype city.
pat. Not the like specific rat people, but just the people who are just ratty
the
personalities.
ratty lights. Yeah.
They're just awful people.
Kind of like those children on scooters
Yeah.
we're talking about at the petrol station earlier.
I relate a lot of like Skaven players with like the Orc players. You get the Orc player who just manifest Orc energy, and they want to play Orcs because they love the randomness and the chaos energy, chaotic energy of Orcs. Skaven players, same
Yeah,
idea,
40k
right?
orcs do fill that role quite well, actually.
And Skaven is such an enigma in fantasy as well because they're just like the scheming, conniving, and they're like all like they're also like kind of fun loving. You know what I mean? There's a bit of like humorous edge to the Skaven.
They're very family orientated, you know. Heavily family orientated.
So
Do we really want to talk about the like Skaven Brood Warriors? Are we sure we want to do that?
I know plenty of people who just like love Skaven, and I get it. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think if it wasn't for the fact that I don't want to paint up 3,000 points of Skaven,
Skaven, yeah.
I would also be playing Skaven.
In the old Wii days, the classic mode of like playing Warhammer, and we play goblins and skeletons, and Skaven kind of fell into this. What you do is you'd paint the front rank of your unit really well, and then the second rank would get slightly less treatment. And by the time the third and 45th rank, you're looking at
It's just
like
brown
one
primer.
color.
I've seen so many armies where it's just like, that's just brown except for the first 5 guys.
The guy in the back are covered in shadows. Don't ask questions.
Yeah, it's
So
coloration.
Dale, you having that many points of painted Skaven puts you in probably the 1%. The 1% of Skaven players, I imagine.
Maybe here.
I reckon.
I'm like what?
No, I reckon
1/4 of the Skaven players in Old World in all of WA.
it's true, but I think yeah.
So maybe it's not that.
rules,
So
right?
maybe it's not that low of a.
Nah,
bar for
because
me.
I've seen plenty of people pick up Skaven in Age of Sigmar as well, and very, very few people have painted Skaven armies.
Age of Sigmar is really weird with Skaven though, because like they actually do have very similar numbers to Old World armies for Skaven.
Yeah.
And that's not normal for Age of Sigmar. 2,000 points in Age of Sigmar in other games is like
You can
4,000
have-
points.
Yeah.
Like 40k, I was playing the other day, playing 1,000 points. It's like, this is a 2,000 point Age of Sigmar army.
Yeah.
Correct.
How do you feel about the treatment? Because you said the Skaven come from the what used to be Warhammer Fantasy, now the Old World. That's kind of what drew you in. How do you feel about the treatment in Age of Sigmar? Like the models, I feel like are very cool. Did you try Age of Sigmar? Did you give that a crack? Or?
Yes, I actually tried. The first time I tried Skaven in Age of Sigmar was Spearhead with the new edition. And it was fine. It's a fun game mode. It's just Age of Sigmar, I feel like 3rd edition was a better edition.
Yep.
And I was into the Cruel Boys for them. Cruel Boys and Nighthaunt. Because I think Age of Sigmar's best when it takes these sub-factions of fantasy and diversifies them into their own faction.
Yeah, cool.
So for the
Bit more
Nighthaunt, it's based
identity.
on what Tomb Banshees and the Khan Wraith and the other like end of 8th edition
So
end times
you've played a
models.
bit of Age of Sigmar then, have you?
Yeah, I played quite a bit.
How do you feel about it? Like in the state that it's in, do you feel like it's going strong? Like what's your?
I think Spearhead's doing really good.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about main game Age of Sigmar. I think you guys
Yes.
have more insight on that than I.
I think the greatest strength of Age of Sigmar is they did it. They figured out a way of creating an actually engaging mode of play that is one box, small skirmish scale, right? Because like when Warhammer 40k, they tried Combat Patrol. Combat Patrol is like supposed to be an introductory box and supposed to get you into playing 40k. But the truth is, while the Combat Patrol boxes themselves offer a decent value, the game mode of Combat Patrol is not very good. While in AOS,
Is it just more like not dumbed down, but like a lot more basic or something? Is it?
yeah, because the way it's like shrunking down 40k rather than trying to make its own rule sets. And the problem is that shrunken down 40k doesn't really work. 40k wants to be played as two armies fighting each other, not a skirmish.
Yep.
And while in AOS, they actually dedicated Spearhead as its own separate game mode within Age of Sigmar rules.
I feel like I should really
operates
know that.
Yeah,
but
so
I
like a
wasn't
Warlock
aware.
Engineer has a completely different rule set,
Yeah.
but like it's contained.
Interesting.
And it has its own objective play as well. So I've had a lot of people say that Spearhead is not a bad way to pick up Age of Sigmar, which is good because Age of Sigmar does need a little bit more onboarding new players, I think.
You know what? That makes me far more inclined to have a crack at it. I have a classic a Slaanesh army that I had rebased for Age of Sigmar when Age of Sigmar first came out, and that ended up being too small for Age of Sigmar. But it sounds perfect for a situation like this.
The only
About
downside is
750 to 1,000 points, not quite.
I think it's more like 500-ish, right?
It depends on the army, but like
Yeah.
they're balanced, so they're all about.
They have their own
Yeah,
separate rule set separate from Age of Sigmar, dedicated for Spearhead. The only downside is the Spearhead board is very small. It's about the size of a kill team board.
Yep.
And then when you're bringing in minis in of varying sizes, so you could have, for example, like the orc,
Sorry.
you can have like orcs which are giant bases, big chunky guys versus like say zombies, and
Yeah.
you just kind of
Yeah, good luck getting like the Carrigan Overlord's vehicles
Yeah.
on there. Like, there's a skyship. That's it.
I guess that's what it would be kind of like fighting a skyship in skirmish. You're trying to hit it, and it's just like your entire peripheral.
Yeah.
Just imagine they've all got ropes and then on hooks and going up. That's
Absolutely. I've always imagined in fantasy, being the human is just what is going on.
Oh,
man?
absolutely.
Like, I got to give it a spear, and I need to like fight the giant dwarf skyship.
Yeah.
And also there's dragons and zombies
Yeah,
and werewolves.
you
and
look up
That's why
everything.
they gave them Howl's Moving Castle in the Age of
They did. That model was incredible.
Or that model. Have you seen the Space Marine conversion on the
Dude, I'm in two halves of that because I'm like, I don't like the bombard cannon on it. I like the flamethrower. on it.
yeah.
And then I'm looking at them like, if I cut off the legs, this is a really good kit to make into like just Age of Sigmar terrain.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
And like, I'm okay with just a tower having a flamer turret on it being built into a wall.
Oh,
But then I see the legs and I'm like, I don't think these legs fit it.
Yes, I get it. Right. Like if it was on some big like wooden looking like wheel tracks
Just
or something.
stumpy.
Do you remember that action movie where it was like a bunch of moving buildings fighting each other?
Yeah. I remember vaguely that one as well. And it was British as well. I think like the moving cities were based on cities like but named after like British cities.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about right now, Dale? It was a 2000s movie.
It also
Someone in the
reminds me
comments
of
will tell us.
the Kanye West movie. Not Kanye West.
He did try to make a movie.
I can't believe I got Will Smith's name wrong because I think in Wild Wild
Oh, you're
West.
thinking Wild Wild
the
West with the big
Yeah.
with the Chaos Walker that's in there.
You see, that's
Every time I see the
Warpstone brain ad lib.
the filer for 40k, I think Wild Wild West.
You know, back when I was
Yes.
in high school, Will Smith was cool, and he had cool rap albums.
Now I
They've really done my
still
man,
consider Will Smith cool. I refuse to just like people are trying to erase that childhood. You know what I mean? Like the dude's been around in the limelight for decades. You know, it's okay for a guy to just be cool and just think of the cool moments. You don't have to think of him now.
I think
it's fine.
While you're defending him, I do believe it's him doing it himself. Though.
He is. He's not really doing a great image of himself.
Well, you're allowed to like people when they have their different eras. Like,
But I'm
like,
also
like some of the earlier Eminem stuff and not too fan of his newer stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm also a Kanye West fan, so it's always a roller coaster.
Oh, yeah,
always
dude,
a roller coaster.
I like
There's some areas that you're obligated not to like.
Yeah, sometimes I open my phone up and see he's on the headlines again, and I'm like, what's new? What's happened this time? So what drew you to Skaven, Dale? So specifically, like when you had to pick out your fantasy army, and you're like, well, you mentioned that Skaven's what drew you to fantasy, right? But what specifically in Skaven was fun for you?
I like how they're unapologetically both the worst of the evil guys.
Nice.
And yet simultaneously the mustache twirling narcissistic idiots.
Yeah.
They are the very comic book villains, right?
It appeals to me on a fundamental level in ways that in other media I'd be like, I don't think this works. The fact that Skaven are too busy fighting each other to actually, like, they have magical nuclear energy.
Mm-hmm.
And the entire time during the old world's like, what, 30,000 years or whatever that they're around. They're around for about, like, I think 5,000 officially.
Yeah, they're fresher on the agenda. Yeah.
More or less, it's a bit finicky. You know, they have this, like, you know, any other race, the dwarves, they had that technology. You would see basically Age of Sigmar setting what would look like, But it's not. It's the Skaven that have that energy. And what they're doing is spending on backstabbing each other, making microphones that don't work specifically so they can ignore orders because they don't like them.
Yeah.
And just, sometimes you send a rocket and it goes into the moon because you just want a chunk of warpstone.
It feels like Skaven are the fun-loving army.
Oh,
a lot of the armies in fantasy are like very strict and serious. The Skaven are just having a bit of fun as well, and they can get away with it as well.
Yeah.
And somehow, like for me, Skaven are the epitome of the villain. They are like secretly, even though Chaos is the bad guys in Warhammer Fantasy,
Skaven's the downfall.
Skaven somehow is still always the guys behind everything.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, Arcane wouldn't have won at the end times if they didn't have the Skaven.
yeah, exactly right.
Last year it would have kicked his ass.
I like your attitude towards the hobby as well, Dale. Is I really hold it as a pinnacle of what hobby like a player should be, because you're there for the story and the game and the enjoyment of it. And even when things are going wildly in the direction during a game that is not your way, your attitude towards it has always been something that I've really admired. And we've played a few games before where I feel like you've killed more of your models than I've managed to kill.
That's the point. That's the army.
And the attitude the entire way through, I'm like, there's not a single bit of salt here. It's the sugariest tasting Dale I could possibly
Dude,
find.
I love rolling 3 misfires in a row and then all they're doing is just, there's my doom wheel gone.
I remember, is it the Doom Wheel that fights the electricity balls?
Yeah.
The game we played, all 3 of those templates landed, or maybe 2 out of 3 landed back on yourself.
Keep in mind, I had placed them on my own doom wheel first because I didn't realize they could be placed up to 30 inches away. I thought they had to be like 3 inches on the base.
So you're on purposely,
In older editions, you shot just straight from the base.
Yeah.
So you're purposely firing at your Doom Wheels, expecting to then be able to miss, right?
So,
But no, it somehow didn't.
I brought a white warp lightning cannon, a doom wheel, and then I brought a single warp fire thrower.
Yeah.
And that warp lightning cannon got immediately shot by the doom wheel,
Right.
and then the doom wheel shot itself.
So mentioning like the story and flavor as well, I think Dale, you've been writing up like a old world fantasy campaign.
Yes. God, how do I talk about that?
Easily, you talk about it by starting with the fact that I was too much of a failure to complete my one, Dale. So you've taken up the mantle.
And then we're
of
both bad at communication. So it was about like 3 weeks later before we actually hang on, I just saw you in person.
Yeah, this is
Did you look at my message?
This is for the Warhammer Old World listeners who just want to check in on, hey, where's that next
Yeah,
campaign?
sorry, I
Where's
tried
that
to get into
league?
40k. I like Chaos Space Marines, but like
Not as cool as Skaven.
40k is a weird game because it's like fundamentally the core rules are actually a lot simpler and they're a lot more condensed and well balanced. But then you add stratagems in it, and my brain just blanks. It's too many options. Whereas with Old World, all the options are in the list building. So once I've done my list building, it's just I'm in the game. This is my units. They do what they do, and like you get like 1 or 2 reactions and then spells.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
It's
Gotcha.
in play a lot smoother.
I do know what you mean as well. Is like I feel like the Warhammer Fantasy rules are like an open page, and you just have to refer to those. Like there's gonna be little keywords here and there. But 40k has a situation where they've got like a layer and there's another layer.
40k does drastic edition changes too.
Yeah.
So like most people will be like Fire Overwatch. And like in 3rd edition, it means something different from what it does in 5th edition, which would probably mean something different in 11th edition.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you tell someone what Lookout Sir does in Old World, they have a vague idea. Even if the exact rule's wrong, the idea is correct.
Yeah, the concept of what it's trying to achieve
And so
is the
like
same.
you can just be like, either if none of you know the exact rule currently, you just roll off whoever has the better rule. Like you go with their interpretation, or you just go like, we're doing it this way. We'll find out afterwards and play it better after.
Yeah.
That's the vibe, I
40k
guess.
has gone for 40k is both pros and cons, because I do prefer how 40k has gone for a very balanced mode, right? They are trying to create a game in a very clean and clarified, compact tournament edition, where they're being like, hey, this is how you play 40k, this is how you play tournament style as well. And the vast majority of 40k players enjoy that. That being said, it also requires them to constantly update their game for balancing reasons. So if you're not actively engaging in and following through with the balancing, sometimes it's hard to keep track of what is going on.
Yeah.
So that being said, it does help when you're like setting up tournaments, and a lot of the people that want to play tournaments.
Well, now that
with
the
overall
terrain
smoother
change has
experience.
happened, is that going to change the way that we set up for our 40k one days, or how do you
Drastically.
feel? It is
Drastically.
Does it mean more thought has to go into it, or you can just be more like creative with the structure you're using?
So with them rolling out 11th edition, the new 40k edition, what they've been doing really good is trying to actually show people how the rules are changing as we roll into the start of the edition. And one of the big things they're doing is week by week, they're showing off more of the competitive rulings and how objectives and how terrain is going to work out. So we can prepare when it comes out. One of the big changes in 11th is that terrain and objectives are changing. So there's no more circle objectives. So you know how objectives are usually like you have this and then the radius around the objective, is it?
No more 40 millimeter center that you're not supposed to walk on, and then the ramp.
There's no more objectives. Your objective is now the terrain.
Yeah.
So you consider this building to be the objective, and as long as like you're capturing this building, that is you capturing the objective.
Kind of, it in a war zone, in like any real war zone, from right back to like World War One, where the whole point is like, before that we have to capture a river or a trench or whatever it is. It kind of makes way more sense to me than a mysterious thing. And like even back in the day, you'd have objective markers, but you got to have actual markers that was like, oh, here's a cache of weapons or a downed enemy, like a teammate or something, right? And then now it's just like a neoprene circle that you're trying to achieve, and you're like, I guess that's no different. I guess maybe you could consider the neoprene circle just being the the area that you're trying to capture above, whatever.
And it's one of those changes that everyone at first was a little bit, it seems weird, but then the more they've shown off, the more it makes sense. And thematically for me, in my head, this actually makes a lot of sense as well. That being said, it doubles down on the importance of terrain, and it doubles down the importance of setting up terrain correctly to be more tournament legal. They've already announced the footprint sizes of the terrain, so people can already start setting up the footprints and knowing how big terrains will be, which means that all the terrain footprints that we have ready at the boards right now are defunct. We have to make new ones.
Oh, really?
Which, to be fair, I expected. This is why towards the end of 10th edition, people kept asking me and all the boards, hey, you guys are going to get terrain footprints made? And I was hesitant to. We had Mark Boy, our good friend of the on the boards. He printed some out for us, and I was talking to Mark, hey, it's probably not worth doing too many yet. And 11th edition comes out, they changed all of it. I knew it was going to happen. So now with a new edition, we can properly set up.
So can we use the terrain we currently have, but then we have to put them onto bases that like template bases that are different?
In fact, what it seems like they're doing for 11th edition is that the overall size of the terrain is less, but the importance of the terrain matters a lot more because the footprint of the terrain matters a lot now.
I would say all three of us are probably more narratively inclined gamers. So it's like, to me, this is cool because nothing's been more depressing than seeing a 40k table with just like diabolically terrible terrain, but and the players don't care. You know what I mean? Like the worst for me has been seeing the acrylic clear bases that are just on the ground, and that's your terrain.
Yeah,
and you're
you can get away with in the old starter sets where it's the card or the kill team starter set where it's cardboard cutouts because that's just supposed to be played on your kitchen table. But like when you go to a tournament, you're paying money. And you're going there to play with people who've painted up their armies and they're at least really enthusiastic if they're not overly good. In the case of me, for example, not good. So like you want to go there and just be overwhelmed by everything looking fantastic. Like that's the experience you're going for. Because if you didn't want to do that, you could literally just play with Smarties on like paper cutouts.
I wonder if this goes back to us then. My very initial plan with 40k at the shop, like this is right when we opened 5 years ago, I had a list of table design ideas that I wanted to achieve. I wonder if now, at least for the next couple of years before it changes again, we can go back to that and I can have like an Elder Train table and a 40k, like a thing. Like I have a bunch of terrain that we just do not use. It's in boxes set aside. Especially, remember the Death World plantation terrain? Got a heap of that. And I have whole tables worth, but it's like, it was completely useless in this setting. Whereas now I could go maybe make a template where it's like, there's a bunch of that on there, but inside of it is like a weapons array or some sort of thing. You know what I mean? Where then it's catchable, capturable by the actual players using it now.
And especially because it's like 40k's like skirmish movement. So you get your squads and you move them model by model. You can have more elaborate terrain features
that they can move through,
and their objectives now. So they can still just if someone's glued all the trees to their Citadel Woods kit down, right, onto the base, you can use that. While it's in Old World, you can't. You'd have to take it off and it's gone.
In my defense, Dale, people kept stealing them, so I had to fucking glue them
I understand. I think I've broken how many branches of that Wildwood kit of yours?
It happens. It's more super glue than treat now.
The bloody rat's coming.
Because at the moment we have the fold-out terrain, which is still going to be tournament illegal, and they are flavored to like various factions. Like we have a Tower one and an Eldar one and such, but they don't really give the feel of such. As we get closer to 11th edition, one of the things they talked about is they want to bring some more of that lore and flavor and narrative play back into 11th. We'll yet to see, because once again, Northern boards primarily, especially when we're running events, we want to cater towards like competitive terrain, but there's a balance to be struck as well. But anyway, what I do love about Old World Fantasy though is how much of it is flavored, right? Like if you see a hill, you're expecting cannons and artillery to go on that hill. Like,
Yeah,
if
I'm
you
putting
can,
just
you are
on that
putting.
hill. Correct.
Like everything in my mind makes sense.
Well, in my campaign, we started in the like the Badlands, effectively, which is to the west of the Empire, and the. Like, well, it was the Border Princes most realistically more. And that was based because that's kind of where the story started when they came back into the old world. And that was the kind of area that we're fighting
And almost all the factions are
present for some reason there.
Yeah, present there when it comes to the ones that GW is officially supporting.
That's it, right? And so then the idea for the second campaign was to move a little bit more to the, I guess I got to orientate myself a little bit better. So with the Border Princes is south of the Empire, and then
Southeast.
I was going to move over to the west towards where Estalia and like the Italy and Spain kind of versions of that
I
map
initially
was.
thought of doing the same thing, actually. I really like the idea of doing the coast. I wanted to run Renegade Crowns for a little while as well.
Very cool, yep.
And I'm like, I want Estalian to land. I want Dogs of War. I want, like, every now and then, like, I want an excuse to make a Mordheim warband that has, like, an Arabian in it.
Yeah,
right?
cool.
And it's all about that hobby for me, right? So I'm thinking of all the different things like Italian and Estalian. They could be literally in different parts of the army because they don't get along, so they never deploy near each other kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, there's a better location for a narrative campaign.
Nice. So where have you
on
gone
the
to?
old world, like, mega continent. Mm-hmm. So I've decided, why not the Southlands? It's south of the Land of the Dead, so that's Khemri. It's south of Bretonnia. It's got Araby at it. And not only that, but, like, the coast there is really dangerous. Mm-hmm. So it has a lot of area where it's like dark elves and high elves have ports there. We've got trade from all the human nations from the north. You've got the dwarves in the mountains. There's some small segments of chaos dwarves in there. They're quite minor. Lots of orcs, though. Quite a few beastmen, and reading the Gotrek and Felix novels, beastmen aren't just goats and cows. They're all sorts. So it's super. I'm hoping someone's bringing snake men as their beastmen and things like that. Or not only that, but
so is the Southlands more of like a, because the old world map is specifically is kind of a molding of the real world map, effectively, right? With some added flavor and some
it's heavily
neglect.
Yeah,
some
the
countries. Yeah, right. So what kind of the Southlands? What kind of area in the world would you they're looking at?
It's kind of a mix between the, like, Amazon of South America, but it's mostly based off of the African continent. Mm-hmm. And so you've got jungles, you've got plains, you've got deserts, but in the old world lore, because it was all hand constructed by the old ones for the lizardmen to then take care of, it used to be all lush, but Nagash's shenanigans with the Tomb Kings is what turned the Great Desert into a thing. And
he was out to murder, not just the people and their horses,
like,
but the plants.
We were promised our land would be better than it was before.
Yeah.
We had some deserts, and now it's all sand and bone. Mm-hmm. And we don't like that, so we're taking everything else.
Gotcha.
So this is where the setting for your story starts to build itself. You know, this is actually really cool because my intention for the next thing, which I was going to do in there, was to have my army come from that kind of area. And it was supposed to be there's an African king called Mensa Musa, and his whole thing was that he's today, even with inflation, was the richest man to ever exist. And the thing was that they collected basically huge amounts of gold from the continent of Africa. And then when he traveled up to, because he was Muslim, and he traveled up to Mecca, and as he went through kind of like state to state, moving through Mecca, and I can't remember the exact date that it was, but the time period, he handed out so many gifts to other Muslim nations and spent so much money in the cities that he went through that he effectively tanked their economies, because he would come in, he would buy things like wine and grain and food for his army, but in just gold bars. So it destroyed the ultimate
tipper.
Yeah, exactly right. So it Zimbabwe'd their entire economy by just like completely defuncting their own nationalities' currencies. And it was really cool. Like he had, like I said, not with inflation, with like when you convert it to today's money, he's still the richest person that's ever existed. And it's a really cool story. So my whole plan was to do like a Zinch army that comes from that kind of area, and I was going to use the Zinch AOS guys from their version of Blackstone Fortress. What's theirs called? The Silver Quest, Silver Tower. I think that's it.
Oh yeah,
and
that's before me.
There's some really cool like Zinch warriors with like curved blades and swords, but there's a lot of skin showing. So I wanted to do them as like really like dark Nubian African soldiers.
Warcry also has and Underworlds have a lot of good kits for that kind of thing as well.
Absolutely. So my whole concept that I'd like created was this really like deep Eastern African like style army, but like led by the Zinch warriors and stuff like that as well. I thought that was really, really cool. And it's like a perfect situation with this thing.
It's
so in my mind,
really
while I watch you guys play games, I can tell myself that this is what's happening.
Well, it's super fitting for that because I wanted to start in Araby.
Yep.
I liked the idea of Araby's close enough and has a lot of trade with the old world that all of the non-legacy factions easy to get there. Vampire accounts have a reason to be there, especially if you want to flavor them Vampire Coast or something like that. And then you go southwards further into the jungle, discovering the artifacts of the old ones. You discover like bands, like, small tribes of lizardmen trying to hide things away, and you're taking their treasures, or you're getting lost and the jungle has literally come to life to attack you.
Very nice. So what's there? We've created a space now, so we're in the Southlands. We're looking at this kind of area. Is there an overwhelming story that's going to begin the narrative? Have you got like people fighting for trade routes? What are we looking for?
I like the idea that all of the wars happening in the official story up north. So even Cathay sailing the long way around just to get to the old world and defend its north. The invasion of chaos. It's creating a lot of piracy. It's creating a lot of open, a lot of mercenary groups and stuff going north, which means there's a lot of things south that are unprotected, and also with terms of but also with times that are in turmoil, you've got lots of open areas that are unprotected. You've got areas that just don't see a lot of trade, a bit more impoverished. And so it spreads rumors around. And also things like chaos cults will start springing up, but more local ones too, like your warband, this idea. So I wanted this in the jungle, there's lots of treasure. And it's effectively the Southlands equivalent of the Path to Glory in the North for chaos. Yeah. But for people who are like warrior kings or like outcasts who orc warbands and beastmen bray herds that just never got very far.
So for our listeners who are not super familiar with the old or fantasy map, so the real world equivalent would be like this would be set in like a conjunction of northeastern Africa, right? And then northeastern Africa and then the Arabic countries, right?
Yes.
And as such, being a central space in that general like Europe, Asia, Africa continent means that it's a center boiling point for a lot of narrative. You have a lot of the European-based factions such as the Empire and the Border Princes and such. They can join into this conflict. And then you have the African-based countries, the African-based factions, right? So you have like the Lizardmen, the Tomb Kings and such. They can also join in. And then you also have wildcards, which are generally unexplored by Games Workshop to also join in. Do love this idea. The setting is really, really cool.
Yeah.
So, and you mentioned as well with how the Tomb Kings, right? Like they kind of changed the landscape of Africa. And it used to be lush jungle. Because it's like the South Badlands is all lush, right? And it's reflecting of Southern Africa is usually more lush than the northern side, which is usually desert.
Yeah.
So
a big part of like the Tomb King storyline is when Nagash came about is that effectively he created an enormous like wave of power that emanated out from the position he was in and killed everything, and that's a big part of the story. Is like that's why they've got like skeleton cats and horses and vultures and all these things.
Cat mini.
Oh, absolutely, it's so cool. The concept's really cool. It's like he in like a final spiteful move was to make, if he was going to go down to that moment, was to take everything with him as well. And really like mean that it's kind of like, I don't know, hitting the nuclear button like on the way out, right? It's like, well, if I can't have it, you can't have it, and just absolutely killed everything. But it did mean that when he came back to power, he could weaponize everything from cats to giant vultures, giants, all these really cool stuff. I think it's the concept of it, and because it's Nagash and he's such an imperative part of the storyline of the old world, the fleshing out of his parts is really strong. Whereas in a lot of parts of the story, there's some gaping wound holes of storyline where you're like, okay, well, why is this anything like this? But because Nagash is so important, his whole thing that he touches is really well written out, and you can really drive a lot of narrative from it.
So with your narrative campaign as well, Dale, do you have like, what is the start point? Is there like a driving, this is what's happened now and everyone's in a conflict?
I think the main big conflict for it is going to be just once you're in the jungle, there's no maps.
Right.
And so everyone's in the same environment and they're all constantly tripping over each other because there's just so many small armies coming together to like find artifacts from an ancient time and build up power because, with that power vacuum in the south, because a lot of people going northwards, kind of similar to like the Crusades in our own timeline, it gives you a real big opportunity to be like, well, I'm just some warlord of my tribe. I could be king of this, 8 tribes, or even emperor of the Southlands. For me in particular, I just see this. I'm like, well, at the moment, Skaven are in the middle of a civil war, so it gives my little clan. You're like, oh, everyone's fighting each other, but we've got like little bits from Clan Scryer and Clan Mulder, and no one's paying attention to us. So what if we just make our own under empire here and get rid of the lizardmen?
Because the Skaven pop up everywhere. They are on the entire map, right? They live in the ice, they live in the desert, they don't care. Jungle.
Oh, they hate the ice.
Yeah.
They don't get a choice though. Help, it's not a fun place.
I believe the arch enemies of Skaven are the lizardmen. They're kind of like sworn enemies.
Lizardmen and dwarves.
Yeah.
Lizardmen and dwarves are sworn enemies. Okay, gotcha.
I'd say that like the night goblins. I think people that are trying to also live in the places that they want to be in, because I think to the most of the over empire is if they're above them, they can be like sneaky away from them. But like someone like the dwarves and the night goblins who are also trying to live in the same plane of existence as them.
Yeah, those poor clerics, man.
Yeah. They're like, I think the Skaven can feel more invaded by that kind of position, right? Whereas like anybody above them, they're like, oh, we can be sneakier than them, so it doesn't matter. Right? So are you going to start the campaign? Is it maybe a league where you're starting with a small amount of points and you slowly go up? Are we starting with full-size armies? Okay,
I got the Raising of the Restlands book, and I haven't tweaked too much of it yet, but I really do like the Path to Glory campaign they've set in there.
Is that the new book, is it? The Chaos
It's
one?
one of the newer ones.
Yeah,
It's
cool.
the newer Chaos one. And it's 500 points and then 750, and every game you get experience. It's like Warhammer's Crusade in 40k, and you get like artifacts and things like that. I wanted to use that because I saw the gifts of power, and I'm looking at that, I'm like, this doesn't have to be chaos. This could totally just be some lizardman artifact.
Absolutely.
Like it's some orb with numerous like Rubik's Cube parts to it that just gives you an additional strength or leadership. Right? There's so much you can do with it. And I'm just thinking kit bashing wise.
Yeah.
Make what you want. This is the excuse.
We're in the same vein, Dale. I appreciate it.
You ever seen those Frostgrave kits? They've got a lot of stuff in there.
There's a lot of stuff, yeah.
They're really good. And so I just wanted to we'll start small, so that way if someone's building something, it's like, I want to build Renegade Crowns, so I'm going to build them, and I'm going to build them all as Araby, right? Well, good luck finding those models.
Yep.
Right? Maybe some of the stuff from Slaanesh and Age of Sigmar works if you use it with other kits.
Yep.
They're a bit too chaos coded. But like they've got the flowing silks and some of the turbans and the really like nice recurve bows.
Because forgive me if I'm wrong, I don't think Araby has ever had an official release.
Nah,
they've had a couple of models and I think a single box set in 3rd edition.
Yeah, in the very, very early days, they did lean a little bit into it. And in the Warhammer, like I'd say their version of like the D&D models they created before Warhammer existed, they actually got some cool stuff. So the two main unexplored ones outside of Cathay, which is now got really cool releases, is Ind, and which is like a India effectively, right? Yep. And then you have we just talked about it 1 second ago. Araby. And it's one of these things is the writers always said it was something they always specifically wanted to get to, but as the game got much bigger and it kind of got away from them, it made more sense to focus on the things that were there, and then they'll get to it eventually. Yeah, obviously, that was taken away from them when the 8th edition was kind of like removed, so it destroyed that like opportunity, I guess, to do that. And then when the old word came about, that's why they took the opportunity. Initially, 2 of the starting factions was going to be Cathay and the Russian one, which I'm again forgetting the name of.
Kislev, the Eastern Europeans. It's not just Russian. There's a lot of like Polish and Lithuanian.
Yeah, absolutely correct. Yeah, thank you. And the idea was to start with the 2 of those. I don't know if there's any official reasoning that they pulled away from the Kislev. Obviously, I think
we saw 3D sculpts of some of their parts.
Oh, that's it.
I came in and showed you.
I would say the overall kind of like conflicts in that area in the real world probably made a bit of a difference.
I don't think that's a good excuse. I think that's a bit of cope. I can understand it being part of the reason, but being the reason.
We're talking about the same company that like pulled back on Slash for a long time because there was too many boobies in it. You know
I
what I
wonder
mean?
if there was
in their stores.
what if it's a development thing where they're like, okay, these just aren't ready to cook yet. And also, if we release them later, we can use that to keep driving engagement towards Old World.
And that's what I hope is that we just get to see it
I
somewhere
think
down the
Cathay
track.
was also just a stronger selling point as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, especially with the Oriental style dragons, right? Like, it's such a different style from the spindly noodle wyverns that Games Workshop normally makes.
The concept of
nice,
those
long,
wizards
elegant imperial
being able to
ones.
replace on the table by the dragon is so cool. Like, it's such a cool idea.
The Cathay coming out was a big shake-up for Old World, I find, because it was them saying, hey, we are here as brand new. Like, these are brand new sculpts, fresh plastic. This entire army is plastic. And then it was a big selling point for people that want to give Old World a go, but also don't want to have to deal with necessarily the old minis or potential fine cast. Rock and roll. Here's your chance.
Yeah.
And I think
I just use
Kislev
Sigma models.
Exactly. I think Kislev will be the same deal as well. So then when they eventually release Kislev as well, you get a fresh new batch of players coming in because this is their opportunity to start with something that doesn't have to be necessarily old, but get you playing Old World.
Yeah.
But sorry, though, you were saying.
No, you're right. And like Chaos, they got their new Marauders, and I love them.
They're incredible minis.
I like the old ones for what they were, but when I look at them and I look at the Dark Earth as the reinterpretation for Age of Sigmar, right? I look at the lack of armor and the lack of clothing, and I'm like, these look like they're more suited for an arid environment.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the Badlands or the volcanic wastes that Age of Sigmar originally had the Slaves to Darkness in. Like the original Warcry was all about this like chaotic mess of just uninhabitable lands that just didn't see rainfall, they didn't have vegetation, it was just rock and stone and lava and fire. And so, you know, it makes sense for that. But in Old World, they come from the north. They come from the frigid wastes and all of these like more like Viking style, not quite Northern European, but mostly Northern European inspired, right? And then you get a few different flavors. And so having them decked out in like mammoth tusks and furs, to me, that's just like, that is exactly how I imagine them when they're described on paper. And the old models just didn't fit that. But I get the Conan the Barbarian vibe.
Yeah.
I get the Red Sonja.
I think the original models were supposed to be, because the map was a lot more shrunk down, so it was far more into the northern, the middle Europe. So you've got like Germany and Poland and those areas where the raiders have come from the north, and they're now in far more like temperate areas where it is warmer. They can like take their shirts off, do a bunch of push-ups, and then go to battle. You know what I mean? Whereas like so the Scandinavians come down, and then it's supposed to be fighting in those Germanic kind of areas, and that made a bit more sense for them to be like to shed some of their clothing and run around with their shirt off, because like Germany and those been there, if you've been there, it's actually quite warm for a big chunk of the year. Then that's where you get those pristine like fields with all the like the daisies and it is warm a big chunk of the year, so it makes sense for that. Whereas like,
have you worn a Gambeson before, like a padded jack?
I have not. No.
I own one, and not a good idea in this country.
But
like I've got mates who play HEMA and then like play HEMA. They do HEMA, and like I'm into like pole arms and things as well. So I've got one, and I'm like, wow, this is like, it's usable, it's movable, but like it is heavy, it is thick, and that's just armor.
Yeah.
Right? You would wear like very thin clothing underneath it. You know, and like, the material of clothing is also different from the modern day, right?
Yeah.
So when I think of like raiders coming from the north, I think of that's their normal day-to-day clothing with a little bit of extra padding, because the things they're killing have tougher hides, which is great for the north. And then down here, it just makes it good armor. And when they're relaxing, they just take it all off. Who cares?
So
see a bunch of raiders with skins on and stuff like that.
I think for a long time, right, people, because Chaos is a lot more than just Chaos Warriors and the beasts and such. There are a lot of people who dedicatedly just want to play as the Marauders, right? A bit like Norska, they want to just play as the Raiders faction. We're talking about Warhammer Fantasy factions as well. For me, I got Cathay. Cathay, that was the big release for me. It's my entry point into Old World Fantasy, and I got like kind of my wish list faction. If you guys could have a wish list faction to finally get
you have better
released.
guns than me. You literally have scavengers and
giant
models, except
cannons,
they
right?
have scout as well.
Yeah.
And they have a better save.
They definitely pushed Cathay real hard, because when they were coming out, everyone reviewing the rules were like, this is a lot.
Even when they've recently pulled back a little bit on the Cathay rules, but they're still pretty gassing.
Yeah.
So. And there's even more. They've had more releases over this course of the Old World, like this new Old World release than anyone else as well. And the new like Tiger Warriors, what's coming out is so cool.
It felt like they were cooking this for a long time, and then rather than what normally GW do is like piecemeal out the releases, they went, here, you have
one half. Cafe is a full army.
You have it all
There are
in one
40k
go.
armies that have had like 3 editions and they're not finished. Like, where are the World Eater Demon engines?
They just went, here we go. So out of nowhere, I feel like Cathay got everything. People were like, what the hell? Whoa. And as someone who's trying to buy the army as well, I'm freaking out because I went from having no options to 17 options. What the hell is going on?
Have you got a Crowman yet?
No, I bought the starter box and I need to work my way through it. And then I was considering buying the Sky Lantern. And then it turned out the Sky Lantern was turbo meta, which in my mind is very funny because a giant flying lantern is on the power level of equivalency of like dragons.
Yes.
And I'm like, this isn't it.
But it's a balloon.
But do you want one? Do you want to paint one up?
Eventually.
Yeah.
Eventually be down the line.
There's your excuse.
Exactly.
Who cares?
I'm really excited to see the 3 lanterns versus the 3 towers on the
That's one thing I feel that Old World, there's a bit of miscommunication, or at least there's an over communication. Because everyone goes online and they have all their favorite people that they like to listen to, right? You know, like I like to go to the Old World rankings, and so now they've just added China to their regions, and Skaven are doing really well in China.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Cathay
Are they playing
not
differently?
that popular. But the thing is, we play differently from over Eastern here in Australia. Like the metas are different.
Yeah.
Everyone's got different. Like when I first came in, we were talking about Old World, and I'm like, I'm excited for it. And then that night, when we had set up all the group chats for it, someone was already talking about comp. The game wasn't out.
Yeah.
And people were already like, 3 of a kind, no more than 2 dragons, lords can only have so many points of magic. I was like, you don't know how the game's going to play.
Yeah.
I get that you have an idea because older editions exist, but you don't know until you actually play because what does Swift Stride do? Does anyone here know?
Yeah. It's like
Because there's 3 versions of Swift Stride in my mind, and every one I play
I wonder
has
if
a
it's
different one.
content creators trying to drive engagement as early as possible to get that early engagement.
Oh, absolutely.
It's so much of the internet now is, hey, news comes out, I want to be the first one to report on it to get that engagement.
Anything could be a headline if you don't care about what the headline is. But
We do get a reflection of that in the card game meta as well, where in card games, the Eastern meta is completely different from the Western meta in the equivalent card game. And it's not necessarily a thing you can pinpoint on one thing, just the overall, the way the cards are played and the way people play the card game is different. Because Riftbound is a card game that just came out. It's the League of Legends card game, and it's really fresh. And it was released in China alongside the rest of the world. And China doesn't really get a lot of card games, so Riftbound has exploded a lot in China. And the Chinese meta is on a whole different wavelength to the Australian meta, for example. It's a very weird.
And I'm guessing there's also
enigma.
there might even be differences because GW's done this as well, where it's like regional differences in the rules.
They are.
The Old World rules actually have had different rules for some of their special rules because we found one.
Yeah.
Than the UK version.
The language interpretation.
Everyone in the US and UK had the same stuff.
Yeah.
We in Australia and I think Germany had a different set, and ours were different from the German ones as well.
Yeah.
And it's only just a couple of rules, but it made the difference.
Gotcha.
The way they've interpreted into different languages and push it across. Sometimes
Even into different English dialects.
Yeah,
Like, why did you need to change this?
they've used words that like some countries, like is it from Britain to Australia, they would use different wording, but then that wording now means something completely different in the game sense as well.
It is strange because I thought we would be so similar in terms of the British wording.
Yeah, I guess it's just they're just looking for the target market about who their thing is. Like, because you know when you like go on like Word
I
document and
think
you've
we
got
just
like
got a different version of the print.
yeah Australian
I think we
English.
got a draft and they got the final one.
Oh, damn.
Given how long it takes for us to get stuff.
Yeah, true. Maybe they rush it out fast. For the shipping.
No, it's
yeah.
really cool. The concept is amazing, and I like where you're going. There's a cool reason to bring in there. The leagues work so well because it gives people an opportunity to start small and slow to build up. And for hobby wise, for painting and building and converting, if you can piecemeal in, it's not maybe as daunting as needing 2,000 points straight away.
I also really hate comp. So I've written into my pack, like, you can do that if you want, just agree with your opponent. Because for me, it's a big social thing, right? Like, this is how I interact with people who aren't usually in my friend group. I'm like, I've got my Skaven, and I've got quite a lot. Most of them are painted. Want to see them?
Yeah.
You know, you're going to kill them all, and I'm going to kill the ones that you don't.
In essence, Warhammer is a social hobby. You know, you have to interact for like the next 3-4 hours with someone else, and you might as well hang out and enjoy your time with it, right? And so much of it is you're putting passion and care into creating your minis. So you want to actually share with people around you. And that's why we have spaces like normal boards where it is you come down and you socialize. A big part of it is, well, there is always going to be people that want to there compete and go for the challenge and win whatever. One way or another, you cannot escape that veneer of you are here to socialize. Yeah. So But also, now I mentioned it earlier as well. Do you guys have a wish list faction you would love to see?
Ooh, I do. Yeah, for sure.
Because I got mine. Right, I got Cathay.
I want Snakeman of Koresh.
Okay.
I think in this part of the timeline, you actually have like this is the perfect time to put them in before you wipe them off the map.
Gotcha. So for listeners who are not familiar, what are the Crash?
So the Snakeman of Koresh is, if we would put it into like the real world map, it's kind of like parts of the Middle East and Southeast Asia, and so you've got a bit of the. How do I explain this? They're
Almost
they're called the Blood Nagas,
Yeah,
right?
like
so
the
you've got
Thailand,
a mix of
Bhutanese,
yes,
right?
And it's not a culture that I know quite a lot of their mythologies on. And so when I saw this, I'm like, the way they're described, they don't have a lot of lore. They're basically the Chaos Lizardmen.
Oh,
They were corrupted in the old times of the old world, and they just fell to all these rituals and their dark magics. And they were, I think they were supposed to be from the same prototype as the Lizardmen, but the Lizardmen are the ones that just are completely chaos immune. These ones weren't. These are
these are
failures,
they've
and
almost
they've
very
become their own
shrouded.
cults.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of secrecy. They have a lot of. They do a lot in like slavery of Ind and other like small human populations nearby, and they carry chariots on massive snakes, and they've got that like Aztec snake god vibe to them as well. And it's all about what in Age of Sigmar, like the Daughters of Cain fill that role quite well, where you've got all of the blessings of Cain, where Cain's the god of murder and blood, and you've got the snakes that symbolize the like both the subtlety but also the vibrant danger. And the Snakemen, I think, represent a really good Beastmen alternative, if not their own faction, a sub-faction of Beastmen, to Cathay. Because they're
Gotcha.
south of Cathay, they're in Ind, and historically Cathay has gone from all the way to the top of Cathay, all the way to the bottom of Koresh. Like, it's ebbed and flowed depending on edition and what role-playing game.
Plenty of space there for them to have
Yeah.
conflict with each other.
This is really
Yeah.
cool because you get a way to play Lizardmen, but still have a flavor of chaos. They're very shrouded in mystery.
Yeah, and they're not chaos either. They are their own thing. Just like how in Old World Skaven aren't chaos.
And I don't believe in Old World as well. There's a lot of like necessarily snake men or Naga styled minis as well. So these would be very, very cool, right?
Yeah, if you
Back when they did like Hero Quest and stuff, they were all metal. They existed for like some of their D&D line, and they had a mention in one of the newer role-playing game supplements.
They definitely they definitely exist, and the Warhammer in general, the like story writers have leaned in the very early days into the snake person concept being like not necessarily Slanesh, but Slanesh adjacent. So like Slanesh comes along and they lean towards them, even though they're not technically corrupted by them. Almost like the humans exist outside of chaos, but then they incline towards chaos, right? And there's some of the early 40k books indicate where they've come across planets where there's these snake people and they're all writhing together, and they're very. I can't remember which book it is, but it's a very like poignant part of the start of the Horus Heresy, where they come across this planet and the entire planet's population is kind of like now in the central core, and there's just a mass of these slithering snake people. And if you see into the like old 40k models, you have some of the like kind of snake people in those 40k models as well.
Blackstone Fortress released one as well.
Yes,
I think it was for the and they let the Drukhari use them for an edition.
Yes, correct, right? And so they really leaned into it, and it was something that they had some really cool concepts for, same as in the old world and 40k, and then they just pulled away, I guess, because you're trying to put resources into where you're going to develop different product lines, right?
I also just think Snakemen are cooler than Lizardmen. I really like the old unused Demon Souls model for the Beastmen.
Yes, yeah.
And they had this one Snakeman, and he's got these really spindly arms, this really long neck, and I'm just like, that's so cool.
The idea of the men with the cobra hoods as well. Like,
Or like the cult
humanized
from
bodies.
Conan the Barbarian with all the snakes and the sun iconography. Because like you can go jungle, you can go desert, you can go basically everything but cold, right? Which is funny because the Chaos cults have a cult of the slithering serpent, and it's like, you're all from the frigid cold. There's not a lot of snakes there. They're warm-blooded creatures.
Correct. What about you, Danny?
Mine would definitely be the like leaning into this Stalia side. Like I really like the story and that they've got in like Lustria, which is like the South American kind of version of that. And I guess their conquistadors kind of idea. I really like that section is flooded out, and they have huge conflicts with the Skaven and the Beastmen there as well. Like the Estalia area is kind of where the Skaven first originated as part of their their storyline as well, which is a cool cross line. But I just really like the idea of like that Spanish, really heavy like
Inquisition
style stuff, and the models they could do in the old world that fall in line with that.
Were they a faction that originated, say, from Bretonia or Empire, or they just kind of spring up from the South American regions?
So the Italia, which is like the version of Italy, right? In the Italia, sorry. The in the Warhammer world, that's where the humans originated from, and all the humans came out of that area across the mountains. So in the early days, when they talk about like when Sigmar was still a human, that was the first humans that were kind of came into the Germanic areas, and I think it's called the Golden Crescent, but that's kind of stolen from the real Golden Crescent of like the real world in the Arabic countries, right? So the idea is that they came out of there, and when they crossed the mountains, that's when humans really spread out, almost like as a plague across the rest of the world. And that was because it was where the humans originated from. Their kind of nationalities grew the biggest quicker and then faded out. So they fade out by the time the Empire and the Old World and Bretonia were large factions. The old factions had started to die away.
Right.
So they've got like a pantheon of old gods that they believed in. Where the Skaven were, it was this huge city they built where they had this massive tower that went all the way up into the clouds and had a massive bell on it. But it was that bell came from like a wanderer they don't recognize.
Yeah, this single guy in a row that never revealed his identity, just said, I can put that bell in that tower, just let me ascribe like a little rune to my god and we'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then it dinged 13 times. And then the rain just started blighting, all the crops went rad. And the humans were like, you know, it was a human in a dwarf city, like side by side. And like they built this Tower of Babel kind of structure. And then they're like scrambling to like, you know, save their land, and turns out all the dwarves have already been eaten by Skaven.
Yeah.
Then that's the Skaven's origin story, which comes from Talea and Estalia's region, the Blighted Marshes, I believe that it is.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the concept is really cool. Like, I don't know where you go to find that information outside of probably like a Wikipedia page, I guess, or like the Warhammer wikis, but really...
The army books.
Which ones?
The army books
it's in the
from
army
like
books,
7th edition, 6th edition, 8th edition. They've really good on it. And... there's quite a bit of Talea and Estalia now because of the current editions of the Warhammer roleplay game.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah.
Same with Lustria. There's a lot of like the Conquistador stuff is in the role-playing game because that was a big thing they were doing for their Lustria expansion is you go with a group of Talaean and Estalian merchants and mercenaries to the New World and you go and go meet Amazon tribes and things because there's also that in Lustria, of course.
Yeah. Well, the reason I really would love to this be fleshed out because they've got a lot of story and like I said, those old world, like older pantheon gods before Sigmar and like the wolf god and stuff. And I like the idea of that. But they also were really big on, I guess, the dogs of war and the mercenaries, which means as an army concept on the field, it really, you can have a lot of cool little different things. So I like the idea of you could have some ogres in there and some like, now you could have some Cathay warriors, just people that they've brought along that they paid money. Yeah. That's the thing. You can kind of pull those in. And you're looking at an army in front of you, it just gives you so much scope for like interesting stuff. Like some of the guys, the models that I've got for my Dogs of War army, I managed to, after probably 15, 20 years of being in the hobby, found some of the original print of the pirate dwarves, where they've got like the beards and the like not the balaclavas, like, you know, the little
tricorn hats.
Pirate hats. Really, really cool models, and I just love the idea of having those in there, but also with like a big row of like pikemen and stuff like that.
Because visual identity wise, they would look really cool. It would be a nice little mixed match of all these different things put together, and you have that veneer of being like mercenaries, right?
Yeah. As an army too, the Estalians and Talaeans really like bandoliers of pistols on cavalry horses.
Oh, cool.
So they don't really like cavalry. They like gunshot cavalry, pike and shot warfare. They're super into, we have a line of guns supported by pikes, and then we send our best men with their best guns in, running as skirmishers and shock troops. So they actually feel a more unique thing that I think if you were to do, I think Goblin Wolf Riders are the closest thing to that.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe Kislev would have like horse archers, which would feel a similar role.
I think the cool part of Old World as well is that even though it's set within this rough time frame, there's a lot of flexibility in like the warfare. You know, you have spears and swords next to what is effectively guns as well, and then you have Skaven, which have effectively ICBMs.
Yeah,
I mean, they have everything.
Well, I miss the Doom Rocket, man. My more lightning cannons will do for now.
Correct.
I think that's the cool part about the old world setting is that even though you're in this actually quite rigid structure of what story and timeline is there, just like in the real world, like if you're in like in 40K, and 40K is an amazing game, but in 40K, you're going to go from one planet to another planet, and they have that same technology because that's the whole concept of how, you know, bolt weapons existed and power armor existed and this stuff.
The SCTs, they've all got the same
mass
ideas.
manufacture. Yeah.
Whereas like just like in the real world, you can go from one city in Italia, go 2 kilometers to the east, and you've got a different city in there, and they have now completely like different like gods and ideas and how they've structured themselves. And then you can go 3 kilometers north and you're in a Germanic country, and then that specific town didn't have access to wood maybe, so they, instead of having a lot of pikemen and wooden shields, they've got just maybe smaller troops with like more metal weapons, and you just have all this ability to really write like a D&D style concept, but for your just little army. So when you go into battle, like you can paint the models how you want, you can convert them into this and that, and it's like there's just so much broad spectrum, which of course you can do with a lot of these other tabletop games. And this is why I really like the concept of the Trench Crusade that came out, because the idea that, you know, even 3 kilometers down the trench, they're dealing with a whole different kind of demon thing than the other people, you know what I mean? And it just allows them, they have to adapt, just like with like the humans have to adapt to the different games they're throwing at us. It's like these models and the concept of the army has to adapt to something different. And
just a quick side tangent to Trench Crusade as well. They're releasing a 2-person starter box.
Oh, really?
For Trench Crusade. And they're really expanding out the Trench Crusade lore because they're going into Lovecraftian themes now. Well, they've always been like very like Eldritch horror Lovecraft, right? But they're expanding into it further by going into horrors from the deep. So you have this new army that is very much inspired by like they're covered in barnacles and they're like look like old timey diving suit men crawling out of the ocean. Also very cool aesthetic.
That's very cool.
It's one that's just not used a lot for a lot of things. I think the only game I can think of was Mythos.
Yeah.
And I've played a bit of that, and it's like they had a lot of cool army ideas, but like if you've actually played that game, only like 1 or 2 of the armies actually has army building. The rest is just you've got the box, that's how you play it, and they play the same way.
And I love that
so unfortunate.
Trench Crusade is going for. This is a setting where everything is fucked. The world is at war. Everything is terrible. It's grim dark, right? So let's just double down on all the grim dark. Everything is hitting all at once. It's not just hell, but it's also cosmic horrors and the fears of the depth. Anyway, sorry.
It's cool.
It's something that like there isn't a faction in Old World that really does that. You know, maybe Vampire Coast will come back eventually.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if Vampire accounts get ported over proper, that'd be nice.
I would love to see Vampire
personally,
Coast.
if I don't get Kuresh, I would rather. Can we get the legacy factions but broader?
Yeah.
So
correct.
not vampire counts, but the vampires, right? So that's would be your Vampire Coast, your Vampire Counts, but also your jade-blooded vampires and stuff. Things that have been mentioned but not explored because it's a lot of open ground for them to play with. Same with like how with Cathay and Kislev, they had lore, but they still reworked a lot of it to modernize it and fit the setting more properly. Fit the setting properly.
So with Kislev, Kislev at this point now is an open secret. It's going to be the next big release. What are we expecting out of Kislev when it launches? What do we want to see?
I'm expecting them not to drop it just to spite us.
They throw a wildcard in, it just ends out of nowhere.
You get a Kislev character, but you can only bring it with the Empire.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Who is like the leader? Because you know in Cathay they have the dragons and such as the leaders. Who are the leaders of Kislev?
Primarily from if you've played any of the Total War, which we know we have here, I assume you've played a fair bit, right?
Is it the Ice
I hate
Queen?
the Harganeth.
Yeah. So all of the concepts from Total War for both Cathay and the Kislev, all of that has come from basically the vault of information that Warhammer had already approved. So there's nothing in that game that they hadn't approved prior. So it does mean that anything that you see in there is essentially what you would see on the tabletop.
Cool.
So
they have almost like a blueprint and to release.
There have been white doors where they're just like, do you want to run necromancers, not vampire counts, just a necromancer armor? Here's one.
Yeah.
The zombie pirates of the Vampire Coast were literally in a white dwarf. I think I picked it up from the Northerborns actually, and I'm looking at them like, they've converted scurvy dogs, which are their version of dire wolves, and they have different rules.
In 8th edition, I guess there was quite a bit of vampire